Namaskar and welcome to this exciting show, Sathology Debunking Mythology. Yesterday you heard astronomical evidence and then you have also heard genealogical evidence. Today I have a great friend, a very good scholar, very famous scholar, we are going to discuss about other astronomical evidences. Last time we did a Yuga calculation and now we'll do astronomical calculations again for the Yuga calculation. Now Yuga is a measure of time as per Hindu or Vedic calendar. So let us bring him on, Shri Vedvid Aryaji. Namaskar, Vedvid Aryaji.
Namaste, Aditya ji.
Namaste. So last video was very famous and I think got more and more popularity over the days that we discussed.
Thank you.
So today we want to go into the astronomical evidences which you are talking about of the same Yuga calculation.
Yes.
So you can share your screen now or you can little bit speak and then share your screen. And then while doing that, we can discuss that.
Yes, Aditya ji. Last time we have discussed about the Yuga chronology based on the Vedic calendar, Yuga. How the Vedic calendar Yuga got evolved over a period. So there was what I have explained based on the sheet anchor date like Surya Siddhanta. Because as per the tradition, the Surya Siddhanta was written during the or at the end of the Krita Yuga. So if we take the date that all planets and the sun and moon were in conjunction in Aries. So this can be perfectly, we can establish the date that 22nd February 6778 BC, or this date is so perfect that next I think 20,000 years, this is the only one date we can establish. Even I think I have not found even going back to 50,000 years also. So this becomes a sheet anchor for us. Based on that, what I have worked out, just I am recapping the chronology. Like first Vedic Yuga, that is 15,962 BCE. Thereafter, the winter solstice shifting to Ashwini 7322 BCE. So now the difference was 8,640 years. And around 432 Chaturyugas of 20 years. What I have explained you last time that during the Rigvedic era, a Yuga duration was 5 years and the Chaturyuga duration was 20 years. The 20 into 432 becomes 8,640 years. So this we can divide into 6 Manvantaras. Actually, concept of Manvantara came only during the Treta Yuga period. I haven't found any reference to Manvantaras in Vedas or Brahmanas or Aranyakas and even the Sutra text. So this concept evolved later when the Yuga duration has been enhanced to 1200 years. So that's why this is the 6 Manvantaras, 72 into 6, 6 Manvantaras. So 7 Manvantaras have been completed by 7322 BCE. Even Yugas were 1782. Now from 7322 to 6782, 540 years and 27 Chaturyugas elapsed. And the 28th Chaturyuga means the first Krita Yuga of the 28th Chaturyuga commences 6782 6777 BCE. This is how the entire tradition says that Mayasura wrote at the end of Krita Yuga means at the end of 28th Krita Yuga. So this 28th, how the Indian astronomers remembered, that is the epoch was 7322. This is the reason even Greek historians say that India has a list of 152 kings starting from somewhere 7000 or 7300 BC onwards up to Alexander. So that epoch also, the followed by Greek historians, whatever the epoch they found in India, that was 7322 BCE. So this is how Treta Yuga, 1200 years, 677 to 5577, where Rama was born on 3rd February 5674 BCE. Then Dwapara Yuga had 2400 years. So that was ended somewhere in the 3176 BCE. Now Kali Yuga, because 4,32,000 years, so still we are continuing or we are living in the Kali Yuga, though more than 5,181 years have been elapsed. During the Mahabharata era, because there were various calendars, like one was the Paitamaha calendar, Siddhanta calendar, because they followed a 5-year Yuga calendar of the Vedic. So their Magha Shukladi calendar ended somewhere 3176 BC. So those who followed Paitamaha Siddhanta, their calendar, in their calendar, Kali Yuga started 3176 BC, and the Brahma Siddhanta, they follow like Aryabhata. He mentions that the 3173 BC, because we all follow today that Prabhava, Vibhava, that 60-year cycle. The epoch is 3173 BC. Even we go another 3,600 years, that is 6773 BC. That was the beginning of, exactly after 4 to 5 years after Surya Siddhanta, Brahma Siddhanta has been introduced to introduce the Surya Siddhanta concepts into calendar. And when Yudhishthira, because Mahabharata war ended and Yudhishthira Samvat was introduced, that was the 3162 BC. Some people started saying that when Yudhishthira era itself a Kali Yuga. Then 3126 BCE, this was another epoch used by the Vaishnavas. This is the reason when Sri Krishna of Mahabharata era, he attained moksha. So that is the date. From that day onwards, Kali Yuga started. And 3101, actually what happened during that period, there was a buzz that no, Kali Yuga should begin. So various calendar, various Siddhantas talked about different epochs within the 75 years. This is the reason why Mahabharata says Kali Yuga has already been commenced. In the Mahabharata, before Mahabharata war itself, Kali Yuga commenced. So that is the reason is because Brahma Siddhanta and the Paitamaha Siddhanta, because in their calendar, in a Saptarshi calendar, they followed a 2,700 years the duration. So every 100 years was the one nakshatra. So that can end either 3176 or 3076. So in Saptarshi calendar, the Kali Yuga cannot begin 3101 BC. Similarly, Brahma Siddhanta wanted that Prabhava should be the first year. If Prabhava should be first year, then 3101 cannot cater for that. So there was some kind of a difference of opinion when Kali Yuga started, but all difference of opinion or divergence of opinion was within the 75 years, 3176 to 3101 BC. That's all. So this is how the Kali Yuga began. But since just before Mahabharata era, the Yuga duration has been enhanced to 43,20,000 years. So this is the reason Kali Yuga will continue for another 4,20,30,000 years, even more.
So when I looking
yes,
at, if you go to the last slide, and in the last slide, you're saying Dwapar Yuga was a very short duration, and Treta Yuga was even shorter.
Yes.
And so the references are that Dasharat Maharaj ruled for 36,000 years, Bhagwan Ram ruled for 11,000 years. So what is that reference then?
Yes. Actually, what happened, the Yuga was when 5-year Yuga has been enhanced to 1200 years, considering that Jovian cycle of 12 years, and 12 multiplied by 1200 years. Thereafter, the Chaturyuga became 12,000 years. At the end of Treta Yuga or after the Ramayana era, same 12,000 year has been multiplied by 360. 360, when you multiply it, it becomes 43,20,000 years. This was the duration of one Chaturyuga. When you have increased the length of the yugas to, the reason was to have an accurate values, because in a calendar, either means you may intercalate one day or you may delete one day. So you need an integer value, because there is a fractional 365.25 or something. So when you calculate fractions, if you have a bigger numbers, your accuracy goes up.
Yes.
So for accurate, making the calendrical calculations more accurate, the Indian astronomers, what they did, they increased the length of yugas. But our historical chronology remained same. know how to explain that, because our genealogy is very limited, but our chronological duration became very big. So now they started like Rama might have been ruled only 31 years. You just multiply it by 360, it becomes around 11,000 years. So as per my assumption, or what my calculations say, that Rama might have been ruled for 31 years, and when you multiply that, it would be 11,000 years. So actually, due to increase in the yuga duration to make calendrical calculations accurate, that misled the Puranic historians to speculate that Rama may have ruled for 11,000 years, because our genealogy is very limited, and because if you calculate from the Krita Yuga to Ramayana era, only 60 generations of Ikshvaku dynasty. But the duration is too high. It means maybe lakhs of years. How you will explain it? So this was a kind of a speculation to explain that Rama may have ruled 11,000 years.
And how come Kali Yuga is the longest? Normally we say Kali Yuga is the shortest.
Yes. Actually, how the Kali became shortest, because in the Rigvedic era, that half-month intercalation used to be in Kali Yuga only. Because Treta Yuga used to have a full 5 years and 2 months of intercalation. And Treta Yuga and Dwapara Yuga. In Kali Yuga, in the last year, we used to intercalate only half month. Due to that, what has happened, Kali should be a shorter. So this differential duration came only after Treta Yuga. Means after Ramayana era, when they have increased the 1200 to 12,000, now since the duration is too much, then they come out with this differential duration of the concept. But if you can, you may have noticed, Aryabhatta opposed this. How? Why he has opposed? Because astronomical cycle has to be equal. You cannot have a differential duration of a astronomical cycle. If every end of yuga there has to be a conjunction of planets, it will occur in a fixed duration. Then you have to have a same duration for every yuga. That's why Aryabhatta says that 10,000 something, 10 lakhs plus duration was what he established in his Aryabhatiyam. So if this is what the yuga chronology, what we have discussed, how this corroborate with the astronomical evidence.
Yes.
Go back to, because I told you that yuga calculations indicate almost 16,000, 1,562 BCE is the beginning of the early Vedic era calendar. So if you look at in the Indian condition, this is that post glacial sea level rise. Around 18,000 BC, almost, if you can see, the Holocene period has started. Means we have to see Holocene maybe somewhere 14,000 to from today onward, but somewhere in this 18,000 from today means around 16,000 BC. And Indians had already learned the agriculture. Then they started following a Varsha Ritu to Varsha Ritu calendar, from rainy season to rainy season. So they somehow identify how to find out when rainy season is going to start. So that's why the year is also called as Varsha even today, because we used to reckon a calendar, agrarian calendar, from Varsha Ritu to Varsha Ritu. Now, in the early, that way, what I did, I just mentioned that the 16,000 to 14,500 BC is the Proto-Vedic period. Why? Because we have the chronological or even genealogical information only from Brahma and his son Swayambhuva Manu. So there is various references that Brahma started. Means Brahma observed the occurrence of summer solstice of Dhanishta. So this is how if we establish, this goes to 14,500 BCE, when the summer solstice used to occur at Dhanishta Nakshatra. Exactly after 1,000 years, Vishwamitra found that one nakshatra, there is a shifting of one nakshatra from Dhanishta to Shravana. This is mentioned in the Mahabharata. And Ramayana mentions that Purune Varsha Sahasretu Brahma Loka Pitamaha. So Ramayana clearly mentions that there was a gap of 1000 years between Brahma and Vishwamitra. So this is how we can establish 14,500 BCE Brahma, the father of Swayambhuva Manu, then Vishwamitra, the father of Shakuntala, and then Bharata. So we can clearly establish this chronology from Brahma to Vishwamitra. At the same time, so this is the, if you can check any softwares, we can easily find out. Then there was another interesting reference in the Brahmanas as well as in Rigveda also. The Brihaspatihi Prathamam Jayamanaha Tishyam Nakshatram Abhisambabhuva. When the first Brihaspati was born, because he was the Purohita of Devas, or he was the Purohita of Indra. So what this indicates that when this winter solstice took place at Pushya Nakshatra, at that time Sun, Moon and Jupiter was in conjunction. So this is the reason why Pushya Nakshatra, Nakshatra's Devata is Brihaspati, and the Jupiter has been named as Brihaspati. So the planetary observations, because generally the modern historians or Indologists say that Indians learnt the planetary information only from the Greece. It is totally false. Actually, the Vedic rishis, they have meticulously observed planetary motions as well as the nakshatras and various other astronomical facts. But this gives a tradition why Jupiter has been named as Brihaspati. This is the reason. Because when Brihaspati was born, the Sun, Moon and Jupiter was in conjunction in Pushya Nakshatra or Tishya Nakshatra. And at that time, winter solstice also took place at that time. It's a very special occasion. That's why the Vedic astronomers remembered the birth related astronomical chart. Then another thing, now there was a initial early Vedic calendar was only from rainy season to rainy season. Then what happened? Brahma, he started linking the astronomical observation. So what we can say, the 14,500 BC, Brahma introduced a calendar that linked with the astronomical observation, means occurrence of summer solstice at Dhanishta Nakshatra. Now, there is a very interesting story where Vishwamitra and the Vasishtha had a rivalry. Initially, Vasishtha was the Purohita of the Manu kings, that Trishanku and other. Then since Vishwamitra pointed out that now the summer solstice is at Shravana, not at Dhanishta, then Vishwamitra became the Brahmarshi. Then Vasishtha did more penance, and then he found that actually he observed that it is not correct to start solstice to solstice. Then he established that we have to follow year from equinox to equinox. This is how the Rigvedic Yuga calendar used to commence from Sharad Ritu to Sharad Ritu. So in entire Vedic literature, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Atharva Veda, even various other texts, always Sharad Ritu, like Jivema Sharada Shatam, Pashyema Sharada Shatam, always Vedas talk about Sharad Ritu only. So Sharad became synonymous to year. So with that evidence, and during that period, 13,500 BCE, autumnal equinox used to occur at Ashwini Nakshatra. There are more than 50 suktas dedicated to Ashwini Devata. This is how Rigvedic times itself, Mesha Rashi became very sacred to the Devas. But today, somewhere in the 1st century BC, the same, now the vernal equinox used to occur at Ashwini Nakshatra. So modern astronomers, they think that entire Surya Siddhanta or Vedic calendar has, wherever Ashwini Nakshatra, that should be dated only after 1st century or in the last 2000 years only. So we have to differentiate between, because our chronology is too long, almost 16,000 years. So this is the real reason. And Surya Siddhanta mentions that Mesha to Kanya Rashi, means from Aries to Virgo, this 180 degree zodiac belongs to Devas. And from Tula to Meena, that zodiac belongs to Asuras. Actually, it's a very interesting. The Devas Asuras had a rivalry and they opposed each other. So Asuras used to do exactly opposite what Devas used to do. The way Muslims did exactly opposite to the Jews. So this this may be very wrong or not appropriate the analogy, but this happened. So since Vedas, the Devas started their calendar, Yuga calendar from Sharad Ritu and from the Mesha Rashi, so they selected Tula Rashi. So vernal equinox or Vasanta Ritu became more sacred to Asuras, where the Sharad Ritu was the more sacred to Devas. This is how this Vasantadi calendar was Asuras. Even today, because at time the vernal equinox used to occur in Tula Rashi, so that's why the even in Kerala they celebrate Onam. I think presently Onam is going on in Kerala. So that is the Asura tradition of New Year. In Rigvedic era, Vasanta Ritu was not the New Year. Actually, Sharad Ritu used to be a beginning point of New Year. Now, there was a reference about Raivata Manu. He was born in Revati Nakshatra because Ashwini Nakshatra was around 13,500 BC at autumnal equinox at Ashwini. After 1,000 years, when Raivata Manu was ruling, during the lifetime of Raivata Manu, autumnal equinox used to occur Revati Nakshatra. Even Markandeya Purana refers to this Raivata Manu. Then how the zodiac existed, whether during the Rigvedic period 28 nakshatras existed or not. But there is one very interesting reference in the Rigveda about 7 Adityas. So it appears that in the early Sharadadi calendar, we followed the 7 Rashis with every Rashi had around 4.5 nakshatras. So with this way, that used to, but later, then the Adityas became 12. 12 means 12 Rashis. So at least before Vaivasvata Manu, the entire zodiac was divided into 360 degrees and 720 half degrees. There, the Rigveda's 110th Sukta of first mandala, written by Rishi Dirghatamas and even Vasishtha, Maitra Varuni, they all refer to 12 Adityas, means 12 Rashis or 12 solar months. And Dirghatamas even refers to a 360 degree and 720 half degrees of the zodiac. Even all Yajurveda refers to 12 solar months from Isha, Urja, Saha, Sahasya, Tapas, Tapasya. Even Yajurveda refers to an intercalary month of the 13th month. So this is how the Chaturyuga calendar, now that Sharadadi calendar became now the Chaturyuga 20 years calendar, and Mrigashiradi list. There was a very good Puranic story that Chandra married 27 or 28 daughters of 27 daughters of Prajapati, Daksha. So the Mrigashira is Prajapati. Other 27 nakshatras are the daughters of Prajapati. Chandra married all 27. So that why? Because this indicates the nakshatra list has been reset starting from Mrigashira Nakshatra. Why? Because the winter solstice used to occur at Mrigashira Nakshatra somewhere 11,242 BC. So this was the period when Vaivasvata Manu, Daksha Prajapati, and various like Shiva, Vishnu, they all flourished at that time. And this was the period when Devas, Asuras were in a very decisive war. Then finally they won the war against Asuras. So now the question is how we are going to establish the date of Daksha Prajapati. That is very important because Daksha Prajapati's the Yajna has been dated in the, I'll just, it is around 11,218. At that time, there is in Parashara Tantra, a reference about the comet appearance during the year of Daksha Prajapati's Yajna. So that comet was actually Halley's comet, and it was visible in Anuradha, Jyeshtha, and Moola Nakshatra. And the Vriddhagarga gave this reference that there was a Kali Ketu. The comet was named as Kali Ketu. And even before that, another 300 years and 9 months before, same one comet named Maniketu was visible in Jyeshtha, Anuradha, and Moola Nakshatra. So this comet observation can be explained when this Daksha did yajna and Sati immolated herself. Then Shivaganas destroyed the yajna of Daksha, because that is very important one day. So this is how we have a various dates from the beginning of 14,500 BC to 11,242 and Daksha Prajapati's date. So Aditya ji, this is the early Vedic era to the Rigvedic era, when Rigveda was even compiled after Vaivasvata, in the beginning of Vaivasvata Manu. So these dates are very important. One more observation what I want to give you, this is very important. Devaki Putra Krishna and the Krishna of Mahabharata era, both were different, but what happened in over a period, we mixed up the stories of both. Simple, like Harivansha and various other texts, it is that Muchukunda was the contemporary of Devaki Putra Krishna, because when he was fighting with the Kalayavana, Sri Krishna took Kalayavana up to Raivataka Parvata, means Girinar hills in Gujarat, in Saurashtra, where the Kalayavana was killed by Muchukunda. Muchukunda was at least 55 or 58 generations before Sri Rama. How this is possible? How can we establish contemporaneity of Muchukunda with the Devaki Putra Krishna? Second, Ramayana's Balakanda gives the story of Narakasura. They said Narakasura was killed by Devaki Putra Krishna only. Even there is in a Puranas, Dilipa, he was the great grandfather of Sri Rama. He is requesting Vishwamitra to narrate the story of Devaki Putra Krishna. So these are chronologically inexplainable if you accept that there is only one Krishna that was. So we have to say, and one more issue, during the Mahabharata period, there was no Rakshasas. All Rakshasas have been finished during the Ramayana era only. After Vibhishana took over Sri Lanka, there was no Rakshasa at all. In entire Mahabharata period, Asuras or Rakshasas never existed in India. But how Sri Krishna is fighting by birth, in the beginning of his childhood, he is fighting with the Rakshasas, so many Rakshasas. And one more, Chandogya Upanishad refers to that Devaki Putra Krishna was a disciple of Ghorangirasa, and there is a Sukta in Rigveda written by Ghorangirasa. How Vedic Sanskrit existed in Mahabharata period, where Vyasa is writing Mahabharata in Lokik Sanskrit. So Vedic Sanskrit was almost, it's a very vintage or almost extinct by Ramayana itself, because Valmiki wrote Ramayana in Lokik Sanskrit. That's why he was the Adi Kavi. So Lokik Sanskrit evolved before Treta Yuga. Before Treta Yuga, only Vedic Sanskrit was, or even the transition period between the Lokik and Vedic Sanskrit. And the Krishna Mahabharata was the disciple of Sandipani, where the Devaki Putra Krishna of Rigvedic era. So there is a saying in Harivansha, clearly gives Sri Krishna's birth date, saying that, but we have to corroborate with the Kansa Vadha, because Sri Krishna killed Kansa when he was 11 years, 6 months old. So when the year, because this is the conversation between Andhakasura and the Kansa, Andhakasura says, a comet has crossed 13 nakshatras starting from Bharani. Ketuna dhuma ketostu nakshatrani trayodasha bharanyadini viddhani nanuyanti nishakaram. And this is the Halley's comet. Exactly, initially it was in Bharani around 10 September 11143 BCE. And then it crossed 180 degrees somewhere in the 21st January 1142 to 21st February. So Sri Krishna killed Kansa on Magha Amavasya. So that is around 24th November 1114 BC. So if go back to 11 years 6 months, that comes around 25th May 1153 BC. I'll just show you the simulation how this gives that one. It started somewhere in September. It is from Bharani. It is going to Purva Bhadra Nakshatra, Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra. From there, what it does, it goes and it stays in the somewhere in the January. Then from Purva Bhadra Nakshatra, it cross 180 degree, it follows. This is the Halley's Comet. So up to Magha and Purva Phalguni. And it is following the Nishakaram, because that shloka in that Harivansha Purana, it mentions that it Nanuyanti Nishakaram. Exactly, it following the moon every day 1 nakshatra. So 13 to 14 days, the same that Halley's Comet followed this. So that exactly corroborates the comet observation mentioned in Harivansha, and this comet was observed just in the same year when Kansa was killed. Now there was I haven't found any reference, but generally it is stated that when Sri Krishna was born, 5 planets were on exaltation and 2 were in their own houses. So exactly Saturn was 20 degrees in Libra in the same year, 25th May, and Jupiter was around 2 degrees. Generally in Cancer, if Jupiter is at 5 degrees, then it will be called as a exaltation. And moon was in Rohini, means certainly it was in Taurus. So various astronomical details established. So what happens? We will get an exact date of Daksha Prajapati's Yajna as well as the birth of the Devaki Putra Krishna. So with we will get an exact date, then the chronology and genealogy can be easily arrived. The same thing I have attempted.
So Devki and Vasudev were there till the end of Krishna's leaving the planet, and then they were there till that time. So how do you explain that?
No, this is because Sri Krishna was born on 25th May 11153. Generally, it is says Sri Krishna lived up to 125 years.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, that 125 years is the later concept. How that later concept? Because we have already assumed that 3101 BC was the beginning of the Kali Yuga.
Right.
Then, since we go back with the various other inputs, then we established that he might have lived 125 years. Because we think that 36 years before the that Kali Yuga, the Sri Krishna, the Mahabharata war took place. And then we go back even before that. Actually, that 125 years is not mentioned in. Our problem is the Puranas have been updated during the Gupta era. We don't have the earlier versions of the Puranas presently. So first we have to establish the chronology. It is difficult to say how many years Sri Krishna was alive, and during the Mahabharata era, what was his lifetime of the Sri. But Mahabharata, we can easily establish the date. Now, since the stories of the Devaki Putra Krishna and Mahabharata Krishna got mixed up, now it is very difficult to say who the exact life duration of the Sri Krishna. But even the Sri Krishna may have lived 80, 90, 80 years. His father, mother, maybe 100, 105 years can be alive during his lifetime also.
Yeah, I think a lot of questions you have raised, and it makes the discussions more interesting. And so in the next session, we'll cover these points. More will go into more detail about Krishna and Ram, and try to present it to the whole world. But thank you so much, Vedvi Radhaji, for your precious time. And we'll continue our discussion. It is very interesting for people who actually want to get into the scientific study of the Vedic science. of the Vedic history. But definitely, I can say that the stories are real,
Yes,
timelines may vary, but the stories
yes.
are real. In case of
Yeah,
other
because
cultures, yes,
yeah, I want to add one line because the Sattology is looking at the real history in the so-called mythology. So we have to say that it is not the mythology that how Muchukunda was a contemporary of Sri Krishna.
yeah,
This is the reason because the real Sri Krishna and even in Ramayana, Rama is telling the Nriga story to Lakshmana and referring to Vasudeva. How so there are so many chronological inconsistencies if we follow only one Krishna in Mahabharata.
so in
This
Bhagavad
is very
Gita,
very complex issue.
yes, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Avajananti mam moda manushin tanumashritam param bhavam ajanantu
Yes.
mama bhuta maheshwara. So we'll end the talk here and we'll continue on from here in the next session. So thank you
Yes.
viewers for watching and really thank you for all the questions that you're asking people who are a little bit confused. But we'll cover that. You can ask the same questions on the YouTube video and we'll send those questions to him for the next show. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaskar.